the Amazing Women Speak podcast, inspiring and motivating every Black woman to own, honor, and execute her amazing, individually and collectively, as it was established at birth.
Good evening. Happy Sunday. I'm Crystal L. Gunn, and welcome to another episode of Amazing Women Speak. And thank you so much for joining us this evening. And so while you're getting settled in for the show, do me a favor, hit the share button and share Amazing Women Speak so your friends and followers can get in on this conversation. Amazing Women Speak is sponsored by the Amazing Women Network, which was created to unite and empower Black women globally, focusing on the pillars of reclaiming and owning our personal power, mind, body, and spirit, reclaiming and owning our financial power, and increasing our social involvement. Definitely visit us on the web at amazingwoman, WOMAN, network.com. And so let's get into today's show. So we know we all face setbacks, failures, moments that knock us on our tails. But the true measure of strength isn't in avoiding the fall, it's in how you rise after it. And so let's today talk about the power of resilience, the lessons hidden in life's toughest moments, and how every setback is an opportunity for a stronger comeback. Your struggles don't define you. Your responses to them do. But before we can get into this conversation and meet our guest, Michele, welcome back. You have been missed these past 2 weeks where you've been traveling the world and getting into good trouble.
It is good to be home. Time to make some different trouble in a stable location. So I'm hoping that my feet will stay planted for a little while. It is good to be back, and it is good to be in the company of amazing women. Whew. The fall. I am looking forward to this conversation for so many reasons, and no women can really understand the power of the get up because the knockdown sometimes is so severe. So I'm really looking forward to an amazing conversation. But we cannot do that without amazing guests. So really excited to hear from these two women, hear their stories, both the knockdown and the get up. We invite you, though, before we bring them in, whatever platform you may be joining us from, to drop your questions, your comments in the chat. We'd love to pull you in and make you a part of this conversation, to hear about your stories in a written way. So please join us, become a part of this amazing conversation. We call this the fastest hour of your day because it is just that. We only begin to scratch the surface of hearing stories and getting strategies about tonight's topic, the get up. So let's get right into it. Labrisha, please come in and introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Labrisha Mason. I am born and raised Detroit, Michigan. I am a U.S. Navy veteran. I served almost 30 years on active duty, rising through the ranks from an E3 to an O5. And for those who know, they know that that is a story in itself. I currently am retired, residing in the Metro Detroit area, and I am a licensed real estate agent as well as an entrepreneur. And I'm excited to be here with this conversation.
Thank you. And thank you for your service to an ungrateful country. We appreciate the gift that you brought to the space that you were in. Deborah.
Uh-oh.
Hello, ladies. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Deborah Crowley. I am a business strategist, also an author. I am also a part of G100, state of Michigan, business networking and collaborating with women all over the world. I own Exclusive Elderly Resource Center. I'm the CEO of that. I just opened that last year. There's so many different qualities that I have about myself and so much that I do supporting women all over the world. So thank you for allowing me to share and be on this platform.
Thank you. Always grateful to be in community with you, whatever way we can get you with the many hats that you wear. Welcome back. We are excited to have you as a part of this conversation.
So, as Michelle always says, we got very little time to waste. So, let's just jump right into it. So, Deborah, I'm going to start with you. Tell us about the fall, the knockdown, if you will. I'm putting knockdown in air quotes because I never look at something as a failure. It's always a stepping stone to your greatness. So, tell us about the knockdown and what it did to you.
Oh, wow. I could give you so many knockdowns. And I want to say this today. My father passed away in 1963. He was gunned down by the police. And I just looked at that death certificate today. Literally. For whatever reason, it came up on my phone. So it was meant for me to talk about it today. Didn't know his birthday, right? Didn't know the date that he died. So with that being said, that was a knockdown for me, but I kept it moving because I was only 3 years old. He was gunned down by the police 22 times, right? Yes. Back, and that's when I talk about when the first Black Matters Live movement came out, George Floyd. And I'm sharing this with you guys so you can hear my story and why I got back up. When that happened, still didn't think about my father or anything going on with him. So when I watched the video of George Floyd, I felt my father's bullets.
Yeah.
So with that being said, never thought about it. Kept it moving because that was just in my DNA just to keep it moving. Then besides that, domestic violence, passing of my mother, so many different things have happened into my life. And people always say, Deborah, how do you do it? Or people just don't know because I keep it moving, right? I know a lot of times we say that we need a therapist. I had a therapist and she couldn't understand. Deborah, how do you turn it off and turn it on? It's about survival. I started saying that it can't be survival anymore. I have to turn it to success. And that's what I was doing, and that's what I'm doing now, guys. So many obstacles, even in corporate America. Not being seen, but not being heard. And they talk about owning your seat at the table. Girls, it's been amazing. But I learned from every challenge that I've gone through in my life. I've learned from it, and it just made me get back up and do more, right? Because I know that I just can't quit because it's not about me anymore. It's about the women out there that need my story, because once I have my story, it's no longer my story. I have to share it to help people, right? So that's what I've been doing, just getting back up and living life on life terms and not quitting, because there's no time to quit. It's my time.
So, we want to hear from Labrisha, but Deborah, I want you to come back and begin to talk about some of the strategies of the get up, right? Like literally helping us to get an understanding, because you've been here before and you know the listeners really crave, like, okay, yep, she sounds like she's making it through or has in some areas made it through the other side. Tell us about the how, right? Like what can I pull on as a strategy that I can apply to myself, especially when the knockdowns have been many and sometimes back to back, right? Like you get up. So I really want to circle back and hear a little bit more about some of those strategies.
But yeah, let Labrisha tell us your knockdown before we circle back to.
Okay. I will just say, as Deborah said, there have been many, unfortunately. But, I would say one that I feel is so significant in my life and just really changed so many things is the failure of a marriage. Going through that process, when you're in the midst of it, it felt like it was the end of the world, knowing that marriage was failing, and fighting against the failure probably was even the worst part of it. And so going through that process, it felt like it took all the wind out of me. So I would say having that experience and that fall specifically, it was the other side of it that my life was meant to be. And so as I got through, all the things, the divorce, separation, and all that, once I got to where it was just me and I was able to have a view and retrospect position of the marriage. I felt like, no, my life is supposed to be this way. On the other side, I flourished unbelievably. I flourished. I had more success in my military career than I did when I was married. It's like I just shot off like a rocket. And I think in order for me to do that, I had to really take a look at, okay, why did it fail? Not hold any grudge, move beyond I would say the relational part of the situation with my ex-husband, and just focus on me, the things that I wanted, the desires I had for my life, and really honing in on those things, I think were the key for me to move beyond, pick myself back up, and move into how my life was supposed to be, without the dread, without the regret, without the sadness and the baggage that came with that relationship. So once I was able to see, hey, I should not be stressed every day over a relationship. I should not be sad on multiple days, being in a supposedly loving relationship. I felt freedom within my life. And so I think that is the part that helped me to just elevate who I was beyond that situation. And that was part of picking myself up and moving on.
Yeah. So, Deborah, again, I wanted to circle back, and you said something that sat with me, right? Like I was learning to survive, right? And sometimes in the knockdown, we don't even recognize that we've been knocked down because we're so busy trying to survive. And then you recognize, like, this isn't the position I'm supposed to be in. I've got to pick myself up. So, like, tell us again, like, some strategies in that space. Like, yeah, no, I'm not supposed to be in a position of surviving.
I think it was my belief level. And I talked about having a therapist because that helped me a lot. A lot of times we don't get that because we think we don't need it, right? So that helped me a lot get through it too. And I had no choice. And I had to make a decision. Either you're going to move forward or you're going to stay stuck in all the obstacles and the challenges and the things that went on in your life. Either you're going to stay there or you're going to keep it moving. Because another thing too, I can tell you guys so much. I moved. I'm from New Jersey. I packed up 3 suitcases, sold everything in my apartment, and moved to Michigan. And a lot of times my family members were saying, "Oh, you're just running from your problems." No, I wasn't. It was time for me to move on. It was time to take my life to another level because where I was just wasn't happening. So I had to move. And when I moved here to Michigan, everything just started blossoming. So sometimes you have to make a choice. Like where I am right now is not for me. I need to go somewhere, right? And you're not running. Also, to God. To be honest with you, I didn't believe so much in him back then because it was so much going on. But as I grew older, it could be nothing but him. Because every time I asked for something, it happened, despite all the challenges. And as I got older, I understood now that I had to go through that. Every challenge that I went through, I had to go through it. And like, how could you say that? You know, when some people are, molestation and all that, I didn't make that choice to do that. But for whatever reason, I know it sounds hard. You had to go through that. Right? You had to. So with me, belief level, a therapist, understanding that what happened to you is not you, not for you. You're going to come out of it. And that's what I did. I kept saying to myself, okay, I'm going to start my business. I'm going to have a business. I'm going to have employees. I'm just going to keep moving. I have my sons I have to take care. I got to make sure they're okay. Just the affirmations in my head, just kept repeating over and over and over again. You can't stop. You just got to keep going. Personal development, working on me every day, working on me. And back then, didn't know what personal development was, but I was doing it until I can identify it now. That's what it was, but didn't know that's what it was back then. So personal development, working on me, and understanding that my life is bigger than me now, right? It's bigger than me. And I have things to do. Even during COVID, I said, I'm not dying. I'm not going to catch COVID. I'm not going to do none of that because I have a purpose. And I understood my purpose. And you got to find your purpose. That's it. Thank you.
I love that. I love it. When you talk about that, your life is bigger than you, but what I love the most about what you said, and we talk about it a lot on this show, is that faith. You didn't use the word faith. You said a belief system, but it is faith in knowing that um, there's something better on the other side. I'm a firm believer. I just had this conversation with someone yesterday. I am a firm believer in everything works for my greater good, right? Like everything works for my greater good. We get stuck in this moment a lot of times in situations that we've created for us to be able to learn the lesson, to come out on the other side better, the stepping stones again to your greatness. So um and oftentimes we think, okay, this isn't going the way it's supposed to go. It's not. And it's like, no, it's going exactly the way that it's supposed to go for you to be able to get the thing that you're supposed to get so that you can, as you say, your word, keep it moving to that next thing. How did you find your purpose though?
Everything that's been happening to me, it just hit me. Everything that's going on in my life is all in alignment with my purpose. It's all the doors, the things that's happening, the doors that's opening, the businesses that I've opened. I just saw everything was connecting. Like I had a cleaning company for 17 years. I just sold it. That was for a purpose. And then my new company, Exclusive Elderly Resource Center. When my mom passed, I knew that I needed to help seniors, right? With the cleaning company we were cleaning for seniors and I saw how they were living, right? And I said, we need to help them. So everything just started aligning. And I said, my purpose is to first, in the cleaning company, help the young people get jobs, right? Everybody get jobs and make sure they're okay and make sure everyone has a clean home. But with the elderly, now it's time for me to work on my seniors. So I have a purpose with helping everybody, right? So, but it's just coming in stages. Now it's time for the seniors. So that's why I know this is my purpose. Everything is just aligning. Okay. It's still challenges, don't get me wrong, but everything is aligning towards my purpose.
So, Labrisha, you spent 30 years serving this country. You had a marriage that came to an end.
Mhm.
When you stood up, what did you recognize about yourself?
Resilience. I think that is, at the end of the day, that's what I saw in myself most. I felt that going through the trials, the tribulations, I was still able to overcome. And my belief, my faith is what I really feel sustained me. And so when I would talk to people about my own experience, I feel like it's always a story for someone else to learn from so that they don't go through the exact same thing that I went through. So even though it may have been difficult, I feel like, okay, maybe I had to go through that difficult path so that the next person does not. So all through my military career, I was always a mentor, especially for junior officers, especially for Black women that came after me. And so every story that I was able to share with them, especially very young in my career, I went through a lot of different things in my career. I feel like everything that I was able to overcome became a message for a younger officer that came behind me. And so with that resilience, it was always, hey, maybe you should do something a little bit different. I'm going to share my painful path so that you don't have the exact same path for you.
Love it. I love it. Oftentimes, especially as Black women, the chaos, the uncertainty has been sold to us as a part of our story, right? So to always have to scrap, to always have to fight, has been baked in us as a part of our story. And so oftentimes, the knockdown feels like the thing, right? Like it feels like a Monday, right? Like it just is what happens to us. And so as you are mentoring, especially other Black women, like what's the story that says that doesn't have to be your story, right? Like success, wellness, all of those things are your birthright. We've just been told another story. How do you encourage that breaks the narrative about us owning this knockdown as a part of what we're required to go through?
That is such an interesting question. I know that I'm gonna veer off that a little bit. I was just in the car the other day listening to music, and I love the old R&B music, but it seems like every song was about telling you that you had to deal with some crap in a relationship that you really should not have had to deal with. So all of my favorite tunes, and I was just running it through my head. Can you stand the rain? Why do I need to stand the rain? All of them telling you that you need to do, you got to stay here, even though it's going to be painful. So I really feel it's so funny that you asked that question.
I love that.
I had this conversation in my head yesterday. I was like, that was psychological. That was a PSYOP campaign against us in our younger years, telling us, set us up for the okie doke. I love those songs, but hey, that was, psyops in the background, constantly playing these stories over and over and over and over in your head, especially about relationship, telling you that you need to accept less, when in fact that is not the case. It's not the case. But when you've heard those stories over and over and over and over, you think, oh, my marriage is not, it's not painful, so it must not be good. Well, it should not be painful in the beginning. It should not hurt in the beginning. Love should not hurt in the beginning. So I love this question. I really do. I love this question because I just had this thought yesterday. So, in my military career, that was another point that I would have to share with the sailors that work for me, with the junior officers that came behind me, that yes, there are days that it's going to be hard, but you cannot let people mistreat you. And that is the mentorship that I wish I had early in my career, because in a lot of spaces, women were not wanted there, especially a Black woman, not being wanted there. So very early in my career, my officer career, so I transitioned from being an enlisted sailor to an officer, and that was one of my pain points going through that path, because it was blatant in some cases that you were not desired. They did not feel like you were smart enough to be there. They didn't feel like you went to the right school. All these things. So as I moved through the ranks, and when I had junior sailors that worked for me, junior officers that worked for me, that was one of the things that I really, really tried to impress upon them. Do not let people mistreat you. You need to stand up for yourself. You have the capability, just like everyone else in the room. You deserve to be here. And you just have to have that power within yourself, but then also you have to learn how to use the mechanisms around you that are here to protect you. Don't just accept bad treatment, and that, I think that was one of the big ticket items, letting people know that they don't have to accept bad treatment just because of the space that they're in or because of the goals that they're trying to achieve. And so sometimes on the surface, it looks too difficult to overcome, but there are ways that you can. And so it took a lot, because unfortunately in the positions that we were in, it was all around us at times. And so you really had to be that shield, especially for people that work. Well, I took it upon myself. Not all of my peers felt the same, but I felt like I had to be the shield for some of the people that work for me, because mistreatment is out there, unfortunately. But I really wanted people to feel empowered, using their voice, know and understand the capabilities that they have. They are equal to everyone in the room. And I try to empower people by putting them in position and places for them to excel.
So now, Labrisha, all week I'm going to be analyzing the lyrics.
I'm telling you, PSYOP campaign against us. I'm telling you.
And then we start singing the songs, right? We start singing the songs, and it just becomes part of us.
Yes.
got grabbed
That's
by
that
that
bullshit.
hook, right? Yeah, and was signing up for all of the things.
Right,
So,
right. So true. So
right,
true.
like the Black woman voice has been silenced for so long. So for both of you to in the get up, right? Like you had to find your voice. Talk to us about the how, right? Like because get past the shaking of the knees or the cracking of your voice or right like that feeling in your stomach that if I use my voice I might get shut down, I might get ignored, I might right like might be told to sit down and find my place. How do you get past the shaking of the knees and the right like the cracking of the voice? Because I'm not going to cry, I'm absolutely not, right? Like how do you get past that to find a space where my voice will not be denied, right? Like I will be heard, not just for me, but for every other woman that's going to come in the room after me. How did that happen for you?
You want to go? You want me to go first? You want to go first, Deborah?
Go ahead, if you want.
Okay, I was just gonna say, I would say for me, one of the, I talked about having many of those knockdowns. So one that really sticks in my mind is I was passed over for a promotion. It was a few years before I retired from the military. I was passed over for a promotion that I felt like that was my promotion to have, and so it really kind of broke me down a little bit because in the military, if you get to a certain grade and you don't get promoted, I was already over 20 years of service. So that would have meant I would have been forced to retire. I would have had to retire after my next tour duty. And so being passed over for that promotion and basically being told that I had to retire, I felt like there's nothing else you could do to me, right? I'm already here. That gave me, I really feel like that gave me a sense of power because what else can happen, right? I've done everything that I was supposed to do. There is no evaluation that you can give me that is going to determine the promotion board one way or the other. And I feel like at that point, I went to my next duty station after that being passed over. And I felt like that's when I really firmly was authentically me. I am a person that pushed back. I felt like I had the strongest voice. And that was after a very significant failure because at that time, I still enjoyed being in the military. I still wanted to stay in the military and I still enjoyed what I was doing. So it hurt to not be promoted. But I feel like in that pain, it was, you can't do anything to me at this point. So why, if not speaking my mind or holding my tongue didn't get me to that promotion, why should I continue to do it? So I felt the strongest at that point. I felt like my feet were really planted firmly. And so everything after that was me being more authentically me. And funny as it may be, I did get promoted, but it had nothing to do with anything that I did at that next command where I was more vocal. I still ended up getting promoted and I stayed longer. But after that point, that was the me that went forward. After that, completely authentic, completely me, speaking truth to power when needed. And I felt like I was even more successful in that vein than when I had tried to, do all the right things the right way. And so I felt like that really showed me that, no, I just got to be me all the time. All the time. That's when I'm going to be the most successful, just being me. Stop trying to make other people feel comfortable. Stop trying to always do things the way somebody else said it should be. I need to do things the way I know that they should be, and I'll be successful regardless. So that is kind of my take on that.
With me, I have to make a choice and give myself permission to be me. Because a lot of times I was a people pleaser. Like I felt like I had to please everyone or I had to do whatever they wanted me to do, and I stopped. I'm like, no more. And even just now, I was listening to the Audible with Mel Robbins. She said, let them and let me. I do that all the time. When I begin to think like I'm supposed to please people, let them. Even my sons, let them. Stay out of it. But it's about a choice. When I was working in corporate America downtown in Detroit, there was so many things that they were telling me to do, and it was just so stressful. I got up. I walked around at the Renaissance Center. I onboarded at least 400 people. I walked around and looked at every last one of those people, right? And I said, I'm never going to see them again. I came back to my desk. I started moving everything from my desk. And then I opened my cleaning company because I made a decision. Like, I'm not going to take this. You can't tell me what to do anymore. You can't tell me if I'm going to get promoted like you were talking about. You can't tell me that because I'm going to open my own. Then in another incident, some of those people that was at that company, I hired in my cleaning company. You know what I mean? So sometimes you just got to make that decision and give yourself permission to move forward. And in my cleaning company, I had a guy, and he didn't like women telling him what to do. Right? So he was giving me a hard time. African-American brother, giving me a hard time. So one time he said something, I sent a memo out, and he said to me, when you send a memo out, do not talk about me. Didn't talk about him or nothing, right? Yeah. So I said I had to breathe, because sometimes you have to breathe because you things that will get you in trouble, right? Because you're a business owner, you could get, so you have to be careful what you said. So I went back to my desk, breathe. And then I said, can you come in my office for a second? I said, my name is on your check. Ooh. I signed your check. Never done that because I'm not that type of person.
Right.
Something came out of me, that woman, that strong, bold, confident woman, my name is on your check. He left, didn't say anything, came back with flowers. So sometimes you just got to step it up. I'm not taking it anymore. I'm buying my seat. I'm buying my table because I made money in my cleaning company. And sometimes you got to make that money so you can make those moves. And I did that. So I own my seat and my table. You can't, I'm not allowing anything. That's why I know it's hard for me to work for someone else, because you got to tell me what to do.
So a simple question for you both, because I'm hearing the thing, but I want to make sure that we pull it out. Michele started this with, you finding that voice, right? And we talk about, and people don't want the failures or the knockdowns to happen. But would you have found your voice had the knockdowns never happened?
Absolutely.
They're really important.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
They're not. Because like I said from the beginning, you have to go through some things to get you to that point. Right? Because everybody is just not like that. That can just, I don't know anybody who hasn't gone through anything first to get to that point.
Right. And I think every failure exposes another layer of who you are. I feel like every time something bad happens, every time you have some kind of trial, you get to peel another layer off of yourself to say, oh no, I have this in me to get over this. I have this in me to overcome. And sometimes the innovation in your brain doesn't happen until that failure occurs. So I feel like for me, it's always a stepping stone to something better. In all cases, something better. It may not be what I thought it was going to be, or what I prayed for, but I think the Lord gives me what I need. I thought I needed something over here, but he's like, no, this over here is what you really need. And so I just embrace that every time. So it may hurt going through it, but I just always envision what is the other side. I know it's going to be better than what I ever imagined, because I know that I don't have the broad, expansive imagination and creativity that the Lord has for my life. And sometimes I feel like, oh, I must have been asking for something too small anyway. That's why I did.
Right.
I'm waiting to get to that next thing.
It's really interesting. The most feared human in this country is a Black woman who has found her voice.
Sure.
She's dangerously powerful. Why they try to silence this, the reasons they try to silence us is because of that. We have a power that when it is unleashed can conquer and accomplish so many things. And when you find that part of you that refuses to be silent, it like frees you and it offers you a gift that you sometimes didn't even know that you deserved. But once you find it, you refuse to let it go. I was in Oakland this week and we went out as a team dinner. Of course, the only Black woman sitting at the table. And the person who served us, English was not their first language. I'm just going to say that, right? So she came to the table and she took everybody's appetizer order, jumped over me, and went to the next person. So in the work that I do, I try to extend grace. Everybody gets one. Like everybody that comes after that, you unleash the fury of Michele on you because like the one is gone, right? So she then comes back to fill water, pours everybody's glass and not mine, right? And so I said, my boss was sitting next to me and I said, you're about to see a side of me you have not seen. But what is unacceptable is for anybody to make me feel invisible. White man sitting across from me and says, oh yes, that's unacceptable. You should do something about that. And I said, I did not need your permission. I own my agency. I was talking to my boss to make her aware. When you find your voice, the things that you used to swallow are no longer acceptable because they're not digestible. And as Black women, that get up, the power that comes with the get up is the freedom that you deserve. Damn everybody else and what they have to say and what they're going to try to hold against you. Never silence. The most powerful human being in this country is a Black woman with voice, a Black woman with agency. So I thank you both for sharing that part of your story because folks need to hear what happened in the come up. Because again, so many times the knockdown, we don't even recognize we've been knocked down because we've been conditioned to accept the life that happens in the knockdown. So I thank you both for sharing that. So I just really wanted to lift up in the comments that Elle says, we have every right to demand what is rightfully ours. We are resilient and genius. This is their fear, right? And how many times have we swallowed somebody else's fear to make them feel comfortable, right? Like you're going to practice discomfort in my space because I'm going to invite you to that. Sadly, we have to deal with our own sometimes, even as you were talking about, Deborah, right? Like that crab in the basket mentality. You overcame that, and it's still a part of our story, which is why I love what Crystal has created here. The idea that we get to come together and celebrate one another in ways that the rest of the world is not used to seeing us, uplift and encourage one another and celebrate how amazing that we are. And both of you have started sharing some really amazing stories about what happens on the other side. Labrisha, as you look at your journey, what would you tell your 12-year-old, 13-year-old self about what you've learned in your get up?
Wow, that's awesome question. I would first of all tell her to not be afraid. To not be afraid. That 12-year-old me, perfectionist, wanted to please everybody, a people pleaser. I would tell her to not be afraid, to go after the things that she really wanted to go after, that there are going to be bumps in the road, that there are going to be sometimes difficulties dealing with people, dealing with situations, but at the end of the day that she had her own voice, that she did not need permission from other people to pursue her dreams and desires, and that she is good enough to be in every room that she's placed in, that she has the power, she has the belief system, and she has God on her side. And if she only knew that at 12 years old, I think that there would be many decisions that she made in the beginning, younger years that would have been avoided because she would have had the strength and the power to speak for herself and to not be afraid of failing and succeeding, not be afraid of overshining other people.
I love that. So Deborah, on the other end, you just picked up a book of your life that you wrote that you did not know you wrote. Now you have to write the foreword of that book. what do you say?
That's a deep one, because that touches you, right? You made it. You did that shit by yourself. I'm sorry.
No.
You made it. You have conquered all the challenges that you have gone through, all the setbacks that you demonstrated that it doesn't have to be that way. Just make a choice. You gave yourself permission to be the best that you could be despite all the things that you have gone through. It's okay. Because there's only one of you. There's 1.8 trillion people out there or more. But there is only God made you. And it's only one of you. Embrace that. You embrace that. And it's okay. Because you're going to be all right. Let them and keep it moving.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. We should all write the foreword of the book of our lives to celebrate. You did that, right? Like I did that. The bumps and the bruises to be beautifully broken to arrive at this moment whole. I love it. Thank you, Deborah.
I do want to add to that thing when we talk about telling our younger selves, and I think it's also everybody that's listening, and when we're talking to that younger generation, we often try to avoid the failures, the pains, the knockdowns, all of those things. But they were designed in part by you, yourself, in order to help you to elevate. So if I was telling my 12-year-old self something, I would say, you get to decide, right? And you get to decide, and I think this piece is really huge. You get to decide how you view a thing. Am I going to view that failure or that knockdown as something that defeated me or something that defines me? Or am I going to view it as an opportunity for elevation? And again, we're in this society that conditions us to stay in survival mode, to think that you're not good enough, to silence you. But if we start leaning into the failures, the knockdowns, and looking for the lessons and looking for the opportunities and looking for that, I think they may or may not hurt a little less. But I also think that when we start to look at them and look at what we need to do as a result of that, we elevate faster and we get those things that God had intended for us in the first place.
So what you discovered, Crystal, after you recognized, right? Like that there are opportunities. Had you discovered that at 12, I would love to see the world try to handle you now, right? Like, had
Right.
you come to that realization
Absolutely.
that early in life, what you've done with it at discovery in your late 30s, early 40s, to now have harnessed it in a way. I don't know if the world could have handled, and I would have loved to watch them try.
But everybody, I think, can start that thing like today, from this day forward. You know what I mean? Like, you get to decide how you're going to view a thing. Am I going to be stuck here, or I'm going to use it to catapult me to the next? Yeah, man, I wish I knew it at 12.
Right? Yes. I mean, as Stephanie in the chat echoed it, right? Like,
Yeah.
you have to go through the struggles in order to get through the breakthrough. And if I recognized my struggle as my opportunity for my breakthrough, how would I address my struggle, right? Like, there would be a different level of boldness that I went through my struggle when I knew that it was the gateway to my breakthrough. Yeah, absolutely.
And even going through all that, you come out stronger because you've gone through it and you got up. Like domestic violence, I got up. what you went through, Labrisha, you got up. So that's strength right there. That should like motivate you. Okay, what's my next right move? Right?
Right.
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 And
Yeah,
I
I mean, Labrisha, when I think about 30 years in the military,
right.
Not
as a
alone.
Black woman, right?
Yeah.
Right. That alone. And
That means you can do anything.
Hmm?
You can do anything.
That's what I feel. And I think that what you were talking about, Crystal, when you recognize that the other side, you have to go through that fall to get to the other side. What it has done for me is it makes me want to fall faster so that I can get to the other side.
Right.
So it's like I'm leaning into the fall.
Bring it on.
Because I know that the other side is going to be better. And really, that is my mindset. It's like, okay, I could try anything because I know that when I fail or if I fail, that coming out on the other side, I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to do something with what I've learned. I'm going to be innovative. I'm going to be creative. And I'm going to apply all that stuff to the failure so that when I do get to the other side, I know that there's a win. It's going to be a win on the other side. So that's just how I view all things that come as obstacles now. It is, yes, it may be painful. Yes, it may hurt. But I know that when I transition through this tunnel of pain, hurt, disappointment, all the things, that on the other side is going to be something better. So, okay, let me expedite my way through it so that I can get to the better. So that is really the mindset. And I had to do that through my career too. The beautiful thing I love about the military is that you always transfer every 2 to 3 years. So there were times when I learned this from a mentor that I met very junior in my career, because I was at this one location, the supervisor, he and I butted heads a lot. He had 12 years on me. I was still very junior, but we used to butt heads really bad. And so I asked her one day, I was like, how do you deal with it when you just have to work for someone that you're just not getting along with? And she said, the beautiful thing about being in the military is that either you're going to leave or that person is going to leave. But one of y'all are going to leave. And so that is just how I started to view my situations in the military that were very, 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 very different. Some of them were very, very difficult. I would look, okay, 2 to 3 years, either I'm going to transfer or that person is going to. I could last 2 to 3 years. I could do that. I can really do that. And so for me, it was always getting to the other side of that very difficult job, getting to the other side of that very difficult situation. And I carry that with me now. I know that there is better on the other side. Always, it's always better on the other side.
It's the water buffalo, right? The water buffalo walks dead into the storm as opposed to trying to find its way around it, because he knows if I walk dead into this storm, I'm going to get through it quicker. We want to hide. We want to, ease the pain. We want to walk around it. Walk dead into it. You get past it quicker. You get to the other side, as you say. Yeah.
Because the year of 2025 is time for transformation. Walk into that.
And so let's talk about, fastest hour of our day as we begin to have to wind this conversation down. Oftentimes, Crystal, bringing up the water buffalo is a beautiful way to think about this fear, right? Like we stand on the side trying to create a strategy around it or wanting to hide till the storm passes. Sometimes we need somebody that identifies what's in us that we have not yet recognized to walk us through. So Deborah, Labrisha, tell us about your tribe, right? Like we talk about the importance of surrounding yourself with the right kind of folks, right? That recognize that you can't come to Crystal and present a problem because she's already dissected it into the challenge of how are we getting through, right? Like, so you have to surround yourself. You've got to know where you are and what season you're trying to be in. So talk to us about your tribe. And did you have to make pivots, recognizing that the folks that were around you for that season weren't going to, right? Like they were going to champion you to stay on the side and wait for the storm versus let's go, right? Like we're going together. So how did your tribes, or again, did you have to make adjustments during those pivotal points?
I call them my circle of champions. I've had certain women around me that I call, for example, Crystal, she knows. I have to have a book when I call her because I have assignments.
Right.
I have assignments. I can't, like, I'm on brain overload when I talk to her, right? But that's that connection. That's what I need, because sometimes God drops things on her. She's like, hey, you should do this and you should do that. So I look for that spiritual person. I look for, okay, I went to a couple of seminars and the women were making $1 million a month. Not in a year, a month. A month. So I was like, okay, that's my tribe. I have a couple of people in that tribe, because sometimes I need to know that I could do that too, right? And then you have your soft landing, someone you can talk to and just blur about anything, and they listen. Then I have one that will not listen. I'll start crying. He was like, and it's a male. He was like, hang up this phone. You'll be okay. But no, hang up the phone. Get it together, right? So you have to have that tribe. And I had to pivot. Some people I had to let go because you're not going where I'm going. And sometimes I try to take people up here and they're just not ready. I gotta let it go. And I tried to do that so much where I had to say to myself, you had to learn how to get there. You can't just tell someone to get there where you are when you had to learn to get there. So it's about education too with your tribe. So I call them my circle of champions. Whenever they're doing something, there's certain people, when I see them doing something, I'm like, oh, I got to get it together. I got to write a book. I got to do this. I got to do that. So I call them my circle of champions. And it's so important that you have that tribe around you, because you can't do it alone. You can't.
So true. So true. For me, I would say I love that you said soft landing. My soft landing is my mom. She is who I can call to talk about anything. It's so funny now. I think about it. When I was in the military, I would be calling her to complain about certain situations. She had no idea what I was talking about, but she would be listening so intently. You know, I'm telling her about all the woes of military life, but she definitely listened. And sometimes you just need the listening ear. But to really help me throughout my career, I had mentors along the way, people that I worked for that I really admired, that were awesome mentors that had moved through the ranks, and they were in positions that I desired to be. Some I still keep in contact with to this day. Then I add in there my line sisters. We always are holding each other accountable. We're always just really uplifting each other. When you're trying to do something, we just really kind of come together and encourage one another. And I found that to be so valuable, to have that network of people outside the military that I could just come to, like my sisters, and we could just talk about everything. And then I do have biological sisters too, younger than me and one older. So it's like I have all these different factions of support that I can go here when I need this type of support, and just a listening ear, somebody's shoulder to cry on. And I have those pockets of people, and I know that has been just truly invaluable, because you can't do it all alone. You can't. It would be, you wouldn't want to either. So it's wonderful to be able to have those people that I call friends and family and sisters, but they've been invaluable in my life.
So thank you both. Deborah, I've gotten to know you over time. Labrisha, hearing your story hits, right? Like as a military child, watching people of color endure. So don't have to know you to know that part of your story, that there was a get up moment for you. And so both of you have stars that shine so bright. Continue to let those stars shine, because people are watching that you don't even know. People need the brightness of what you bring in spaces that you do not even know folks are watching. So I'm grateful for the gift of your stars. I was at a store recently, and a young lady said to me, I don't know where I'm going. I don't have it all together. But wherever you're going, whatever you're doing, whatever you're buying, Miss Michele, I want that. Had no idea that she had been watching. Continue to let your stars shine, To see another Black girl recognize that I too can because of your get up story is what this gig is all about. So I thank you both for sharing a little bit tonight. Deborah, just a little bit more. So very grateful every time I get to be in your presence. I am made stronger every time I get a chance to be a part of these conversations because they cannot tell us that there aren't amazing Black women out there. Because every week we sign on, we get to meet 1 to 2 more. And you have just made that list 2 people longer. So thank you both for sharing your story. And again, Crystal, always thank you for being obedient to the call that God has placed on your life to create platforms such as this that we can uplift, encourage, laugh, and cry together and discover what was established by birth, that we are truly amazing women. So thank you, Crystal. It is good to be back, and it is good to be in company with amazing women.
Thank you again for always saying yes, because we talk about that tribe when you can call somebody and say, "What do I have to do to get you to host this show with me?" And they tell you to just ask, and so that's huge because you don't find that everywhere unselfishly, because she doesn't get paid to do this, y'all. So thank you for that. Thank you, ladies, for sharing your incredible stories. Being an example and being the water buffalo, like really and truly, thank you for that. And to everyone that's tuning in and listening, I just want to tell you it's not too late to get up. You still have the ability, the strength, the power, and the support to get up. It's better on the other side. You don't have to stay where you are. The knockdown is hard. It doesn't define you. What defines you is what you do now. So you still have time to get up. So I encourage you to get up. Deborah, you mentioned 2025, right? And which is a great lead in. So March is Women's History Month. April is Black Women's History Month. The Amazing Women Network is launching its Black Women Owning Our Amazing campaign in April of 2025, which is all about empowering Black women. And to get up is one of those things. But owning our amazing is having that voice, speaking up. And as Michele always talks about, not being at the table by yourself, but making sure there's a seat at that table for someone else that looks like you, because we are better together. So, and the theme is turn up the heat, right? And heat, um, y'all know I love a good acronym. Heal, elevate, achieve, and thrive. And we get to do it individually and collectively. So, Black women, you are amazing. You are dope. Make sure every single day you own, honor, and execute in that individually and collectively as it was established at birth. You can't get around it, right? The situations, the knockdowns are going to keep happening until you decide to get up, and that it's better on the other side. So be the water buffalo. Thank you so much. I am Crystal L. Gunn. I am a Black woman, and I definitely own my amazing.
Indeed, you do. Again, ladies, thank you. Thank you to all our listeners. Great comments in the chat is always encouraging to hear that what is happening, the conversations that are happening are resonating with you. And to hear a little bit about how you have come through is always a gift and a blessing to Kristen and I. Labrisha, Deborah, again, thank you for sharing the gift of you with us tonight. My name is Michele Harper. And without apology, I will forever own my amazing. Labrisha.
My name is Labrisha Mason. I am a Black woman and I own my amazing.
Yes. Deborah.
My name is Deborah Crowley. I am a Black woman and I own my amazing.
You are absolutely do. Thank you for joining us, ladies, this evening. Thank you to the newcomers watching and to those who tune in every single week. We appreciate it. Mickey, it's okay. You got here. Just make sure you watch the replay. You will definitely hear some nuggets that were dropped today. So have a great night, you guys, and a fantastic week. We will see you next Sunday.
Thank you.